Hello everybody, welcome back to Wolfeei Access. Today we're going to be doing an event review of Klyx Games 5. This is the first time I played in this event. Thus, it is the first time I will review this event. On screen right now you see me discovering that there's a dead version of myself in the hub. I forgot about this for the review, but either way, this is a, I think, relatively new minigames event. Java, I should say, because there are some Bedrock events that are also popping up every now and then, so I'll try to specify when there's a new one. Java, Minecraft event, minigame format, Klyx Games it's called, and it's pretty interesting. I had a really good time playing with my team. I did get the opportunity to bring my own team. I will say, also, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the event, I'll talk about the results and whatnot of this event. So I'll just talk about it. I'll just say it now. 3, 2, 1. Okay, that was the spoiler warning. My team did get first. We were in top 3, I think, throughout the entire event. I genuinely don't think our team was broken, though. I think the main thing really was that Jack, NotSouls, on our team, was using ADHD medication, which is a good thing, of course, but I think that genuinely makes him do a lot better at Minecraft. So I didn't know that. So I think that was a factor. He was on performance enhancers during the event. Either way, I'll go over every single bit of this event that I want to talk about. I actually, what's it called? I actually took notes for this event. I won't put them on the screen because then you just don't have to listen to me. So let's go. All right, Klyx Games 5 event review. I'll just go in order. It's general, then I want to talk about voting, then all the games, the finale, and then the closing thoughts. So in general, I want to say the intro for the event was pretty nice. If we actually skip a little bit, we can actually get to it. It's somewhere over here. Yeah, there's like this cool effect where, people get flung up and then you start floating to this like portal type of deal, which is pretty interesting. I think it actually happens right around here where people start oh no, I jump off. Okay, that makes sense too. Either way, the intro is pretty nice, relatively standard-ish in the sense of like it's not revolutionary, but it's nice. It adds a few little details that I think are cool to have in an event experience intro like this. Then, furthermore, I will say one of the main, not criticisms, but just like points I have is that the team names for this event are a little generic. Some parts of this event do really remind me of MCC in the sense of like, it feels not inspired, but essentially like, oh, MCC does this, we will do it too, which is fine. That doesn't like mean that it like that's still obviously good because MCC is good, but I do think it's fair to bring up like, hey, some parts of this event, not everything, but definitely just a few parts, feel very much like, oh, trying to be MCC, which is okay, I guess, right? It's just like a, oh, okay. Like even this intro part is just like the camera that slowly pans and keeps panning while every team gets teleported, etc. I do think this is still nice, but I did want to mention like, oh yeah, while playing this, I did feel like there was some MCC, not inspired, but just like MCC parts in this event. Then another general thing I just want to mention, which isn't really the event's fault, was that there were a lot of pauses when we played this event. However, I think it was mostly caused by just players disconnecting, which of course, still something to note because like, hey, I'm trying to play this event smoothly, but I can't because there's pauses, but that's not the event's fault. I just wanted to mention that just in general. Then, on to voting, which, oh, I skipped past it, this is the like main hub for during the event, by the way. This is where you spend pretty much all your time. So the hub you just saw is just the intro hub, I think. This is the like mini hub that you spend pretty much all your time in for the rest of the event. So there is like no, at least not that I remember, like no hub experience during the event past this, which is fine, I guess. Yeah. So there is for voting, there is a mini game they have, which is a minigame where you have to mine ore blocks. You'll see them here. There's like amethyst blocks, there's also emeralds, and there's also lapis blocks. And that's your whole goal for like I think a solid minute, maybe a bit longer, is to gather these things. I'll actually try to. It's called fuel. I'll try to skip through it a little bit. Yeah. So for a minute, you have to gather these blocks, and what happens is this is worth 1, then the emeralds are worth 3, and then the blue ones are like a -1 vote. I will say, it's cool to have the -1 votes. I expressed this as well during my what's it called? My VOD review of Chamber Trials. I think they also have like vote remover things or something like that. It was like random, which is like fine, but yeah, I think it's cool to have negative votes, not just always positive votes, because I think it just adds strategy or just adds unique, gameplay experience. I think that's cool. I will say, I will also, because this is all different points. I think it's cool that with this mini game there is a dynamic amount of voting power per player. It's not based off of your team placement. It's just based off of this game only and how you do in this. You have different voting power. I think that's interesting. However, I do think the game gets a bit repetitive and just I lost complete interest pretty much in doing the voting minigame around like game 6. I think you could quote unquote solve that by just having different voting mini games or maybe have some other element to it, because this is just my first time playing and I already noticed that. If I play the event again, I do think I'd run into that issue again, which is, I mean, it's my opinion. Maybe the rest of the players don't agree, but I know my like VigVig and some of my other teammates kind of shared the same sentiment of like, oh, this mini game does get a bit repetitive after a little while. So yeah, that's just a thing to mention as well. Then on to the games. Game 1 is called Souls. Souls is their like Sky PvP game. However, I would say that this kind of is more reminiscent of Sky Zone in terms of map, because what you usually have in Sky PvP games in the like default format is small islands with decent gaps where you have to do a lot of bridging to, kind of be able to play the game. That doesn't feel like it's as much of a thing here. They're relatively big islands. Again, reminiscent of Sky Zone, where you do have the gaps in between the big islands, but it kind of more so plays out like survival games throughout a lot of these parts. Like dying to being knocked off the map is very rare, I think, from what I've experienced here, which is fine. Like, that's cool. For the rest, the other things to differentiate this is that players will drop souls upon death, and those souls will can be captured in the middle or at these like banks here. If I turn, please, thank you. These banks, outer bank and inner banks. I assume they have different values. We never banked at one of these, I think. Oh no, we did, I think. Either way, sorry, let me catch my breath. Yeah, you get extra points for capturing souls. Not just extra. I actually think it's a pretty big factor. I just don't remember. I don't know the actual numbers of kills and survival and whatnot. Speaking of, though, I do think maybe we misinterpreted the experience here, but I'll just pause it here. If you look at the game here, you'll see that like the red team gets a few kills, and I imagine they're in like, oh yeah, well, literally right here. They're in like first with 150 points. Then Carter banks how many souls? 7, and they gain like no points almost for that. It's like a few points. Maybe that's like maybe that's the outer bank versus the inner bank or something. I assume that is the case. But it feels like even though it's at the outer bank, that should still reward you with a decent amount of points. Because one of the main things that my team noticed was that survival was kind of strong. Which is like, I mean, it's like the opposite of what PB had, right? Where like PB punishes survival fully. This one feels like it rewards survival a bit too much. We won this PvP game with, of course, we did have a round where like we did well, like PvP wise, we being NotSouls and JohnDubuc. but it did feel like the majority of our gameplay experience was just kind of sitting around doing nothing, and we were winning. Like this round, we do very little, or yeah, round one, we do very little, and we just kind of sit there. And I don't think we were in first, but we were like highly up there in terms of points. Yeah, we were in fourth, despite doing like almost nothing, just by doing survival, which, like, it's fine. It just felt a little too good. We did very little, and we just ended up being in a very high place overall. We did end up winning the game, like mentioned, where like we got kills. Like we actually played decent, but it did feel a little bit like, oh, we don't deserve first, but sure. Overall, I'd say that this was a decent experience for me. I'm just not a Sky PvP fan, but I do think this is better than, like, or at least probably better than, like, the, like, average Sky game, I'd say. I want to give, like, an out of 10 rating, but I feel like they're going to be very inaccurate to my actual belief, just like how, like, Fantano rated My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy a 6. I don't actually think he believes that. So I'm gonna say this would be like 6.5, probably is my gut instinct number. Anyways, the next game was a new game actually, called Infiltration. This is like a dungeon crawler game, but it's space themed, which I think is cool. I think it's cool that they, did a dungeon crawler with a different theme. It is one that makes a lot of sense. I just, no event did it before them, so hey, nice. This game, I admittedly should have watched the explanation video for prior to playing, but I also do think that speaks on the core design of a game. This game entirely did not feel intuitive. Like the intuition I thought would be the case is, oh, just go down the paths and kill the mobs and do whatever objectives are in the paths. That is not the full gameplay experience. Even more so, that is only part of the full gameplay experience we came to learn. This game was very overwhelming, I think, for someone who just didn't really prepare for this, which, to be fair, that is my bad, but also I do think for, a full newcomer team, that it is very important to also note the newcomer experience. Just overwhelming. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of info that you have to take in at once in the game explanation, or in the intro of this game. There's just walls of text and there's buzzwords everywhere. And it was a very confusing gameplay experience overall. I will say though, at the end of, the day, this is not a bad game. It's just very confusing. I think if you cut like half the gameplay out of this, you would still have a really good game, or a really solid game. And I think it would make it a lot less intimidating to play, because this, I genuinely think if I play this again, I'm still going to be confused. And I know I know what we did wrong. So, yeah, one of the things about this that it was confusing is that you would have these dungeons where you collect resources, etc., which is normal, what you would expect, right? Cool, very SOT-esque, of course, but that doesn't matter. Then you also have, what's it called? You also have like a team objective where you have to go to the middle of your map, which felt unintuitive because you want me to explore in these like tunnels, but then also the moment these team objectives happen, I need to go back to the start and then do the team objective and then go back, which is like fine, I guess, but it just doesn't feel like it makes sense to me, because I think with a dungeon crawler, you want to crawl the dungeon. You don't want to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Of course, that's a thing in Sands of Time, but that's not the base dungeon crawler experience, which, that's just, again, intuition. I didn't think that was what we would be doing, and I mean, first of all, I didn't even know there was team objectives where you have to go back to spawn. At this point, our team is doing well. If I skip a little bit further, our team's in last, pretty much. Yeah, we were in last at some point because we didn't do the team objectives because we didn't know that we had to do them. I think they're called missions, yeah. But oh yeah, here we are in just dead last because we didn't do the missions, and the missions are apparently like a very big factor to your team's performance. It just overall felt, yeah, again, not intuitive, and it just kind of confusing. Again, not a bad game, just very confusing. I will say if I had to give it a score, I'd say this is like 6, 5.5, 6, something like that. Mainly because I think it has a lot of potential, and I actually think it's, again, not a bad game. It's just very confusing. If this wasn't confusing, it could be like an 8, right? That's the thing. It's just you have to iron out the explanation, confusion, maybe have a more explanatory tutorial or something along those lines that makes this game more easy to digest for somebody that isn't fully prepared. Because again, also, this is for any Minecraft event, but the further an event grows, the further they need to expect that people won't be fully caught up to speed on what's going on. There are, of course, instances where people will be. If you have a full Minecrafter roster, of course, there's a higher chance that people will fully know what's going on compared to a variety roster, etc. However, it's still important to note that things need to have proper intuitive experiences. Otherwise, it becomes confusing, and it does make the experience worse for the players. In my opinion, at least. So yeah, I'd give this like a 6 or something along those lines. Anyways, next up is another game I was fully unaware of, which is called Shatterpoint. Unfortunate name, but it is what it is. This is a bug. It's picked freeze tag, but that was a voting bug. That's chill though. Shatterpoint is as follows. It's a round robin PvP game. With respawn crystals, which I think is a very interesting approach. So there is no middle objective like in BattleBox or in Extraction, but there are respawn crystals that you have to break for the opposing team, and I think that's cool. I think it's a cool spin on the round robin PvP format. I will say it did feel a little bit buggy. Of course, the end crystals have pretty big hurt boxes, and that does mean that sometimes the player is partially in them or can kind of abuse the hurt boxes. I don't know if there is really a way you could solve that. The way I would suggest you could potentially solve that is by making it so you have to hit like the center of the crystal, make it a block display or something, and then just put a tiny like chicken in the middle or something. Of course, it's difficult. You could even add like a sized down shulker would probably be fine. I don't know. Either way, this was a little bit buggy and a little bit felt a little bit unbalanced in terms of like, oh, you can abuse the crystals, which is like, oh, a little bit scummy, I guess, in terms of gameplay experience. You can't really tell people to not do that either, because like it's like the natural thing you would do in this game. Either way, furthermore, I do think this is one of the better games in terms of design. I think this is very interesting, and they're like not perfect. Literally what you'll see here right now, I die and then they break my crystal in the time where I am like respawning, but my respawn gets cancelled because this crystal is broken. But that feels weird. Like I get killed, of course, sure, fine. They get to damage my crystal, sure, fine. But I get 0% chance to do it, respawn myself. Sure, it's a team game, my teammates should be helping me out, but it still feels, from my perspective, like, how am I supposed to do anything about this? Which is fine, I guess, but like, confusing. Either way, yeah, I think if I had to give this game an out of 10 score, I'd probably give it like a 7.5, maybe 7.5. I think it's pretty interesting. I think it's a cool spin, and I like it. Next up is a building game called Swift Builders. This is like a team building game. You have one plot you share with all your teammates, and it felt a lot like Mineplex Speed Builders, but that's fine. You have 3 rounds with 3 builds in each round. The game, one thing you'll see literally on screen is that I think is really good, and VigVig also pointed out is like a really good thing, is that you get a red outline for incorrectly placed blocks, which I think is really good. Like, I think it's good to give the player that information, because it like, sure, you could argue like, oh, it's interesting if the player has to figure that out themselves. However, I think in the building game where you're already worrying about so many other things, it's very nice to kind of get that like confirmation of like, hey, this is wrong, fix it, because usually in games like this, there's 2 things you need to take into consideration. There are blocks placed wrong, and there's blocks not placed. Having one of those factors taken out does just smoothen out the gameplay experience. I think that's good. So yeah, I like that. There was one build that I was not a fan of. I think it, let me see if I can scroll to it. This one this one I did not like, because from a distance it is very difficult to fully determine the difference between purple and pink, or magenta and pink even. I'm not colorblind. I can definitely see like this is different to that, etc. But when you're all together, like flying around quickly, trying to catch little things that are off, it's just a little frustrating to have to deal with like a slight color difference between glass, which is also transparent, of course, which makes it even harder to see. So yeah, this was just my least favorite build, just flat out, because of that. For the rest, I think this is what you would expect from a building game, and I think it was good. So I'd give this also like a 7. I think this is a good game. I think, yeah, Shatterpoint, I'd give a 7.5. This I'd give like a 7. I think this is a good game. Next, why am we playing Sweden? Okay. Next was game 5. I'll try to speed it up a little bit because I know I'm yapping. Which is called Speed Bingo. This is a bingo game with custom objectives. So that meant that most of the tasks that you see on this board are not just to get to this item. It's actually got to do with like a task assigned to that item or themed after the icon that's on the board, which I think is cool. But I will say that it does mean that there's a lot of information to take in at once. I wasn't prepared for, there being only or majority of the things being custom tasks, and that kind of meant that like I was just like, oh god, where do I even start? Which was just, it was just a lot to take in at once. That's mainly it regarding this game. I think this is one of the more like standard games, though I do think that, funnily enough, this event doesn't really have like a super basic game. This is the closest they have to a basic game, but it's not just bingo. It's like a slightly more interesting version of bingo. But it is the most basic game they have. We have seen this type of bingo before. So yeah, it's relatively standard, but it's pretty solid. I'd give this like a 6. It's just bingo, right? Bingo, I've talked about this before. I've talked about this with Chaos as well. Bingo is a type of game that can be expanded upon, I think, quite a lot. It's not easy, because it would have been done if it was easy. But I'm waiting for an event to like do something unique with bingo, because I think it's so doable. It's like bingo is just the type of game mode we only see like approached in the most default way, and I want to see a more custom, unique approach at some point. So yeah, this is like a 6. Next up is the 6th game, which is Parkour Champion, which is 4 rounds of parkour in the format of Parkour Warrior Survivor, pretty much. Not entirely, because like it's not like there's leaps where people get eliminated per leap, but there is elimination based off of time, and there is like placements and stuff and multiple rounds and multiple sections and whatnot, right, within the build. So that's why it felt Parkour Warrior Survivor-esque. I did really good in this game, like shockingly good. I think I got like 4th or something, or 5th. I don't even remember. I did insane. Nobody would have expected Wolfeei Mogomel to pop. I got 4th. Yeah, this pop off was unexpected. But I did really good, and But that was cool. But I will say that gameplay-wise, of course, this is relatively standard. I will say having multiple rounds is very nice. I think it breaks up the like parkour gameplay quite nicely, and that's one of the things I kind of don't love about like what is this ominous music. What I don't love about like most just parkour games is that it's just 10 minutes of parkour and you keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. I think this like stretched out or multiple round version is better because I think it also gives people more opportunity. If there's a problem, you know, if you make a mistake, it's not punished that heavily, or it is punished, but it's like at least, hey, next round I can do better, right? If you have a bad round, you have at least another round to try to do better, and I think that's good. I would give this like a 6.5. I think like default parkour games are like a 5. I think this is better, so it's like a 6.5. I thought it was cool. There is a chance I'm biased because of my performance, but I think it's like solid. Then game 7 was freeze tag, where the first round was a little buggy because like the team we went up against didn't have a hunter, but like I had to tag 4 players, which is not how it works. For reference, by the way, this is like Parkour Tag from MCC, but better. Flat out, it's just an improved version of Parkour. Not just, but if you compare the two, there's very little argument to be had that this isn't an improvement upon Parkour Tag. Yeah, round 1 got reset, which I did really well in the reset version of round 1. Then in the like repeat version of round 1, I don't think I did as well. I don't even know if I tagged everyone. I don't remember. I probably did, but I did like this reset did screw my momentum a little bit, which was a little bit of a bummer for me because I had such a high expectation for my first round, but it was fine. It was fine after all. I will say this game gives you like a long ranged freeze like snowball bow thing, and I don't know why I'm tweaking. Oh, it's because I was playing Spanish music. Yeah, this game does give you like a long ranged option to tag someone, and I will say I think it's a little too strong. I would say that to fix it potentially, or at least my suggestion I gave during the event that I recall, was to make it so if you're tagged via a long range snowball, it should only last temporarily. The way it would work is, let's say you're frozen for 15 or 20 seconds when you get hit by that. If whichever players are remaining past that person also get tagged, it still counts as a full team freeze. But if the person who's tagging doesn't get this, long range hit person, or doesn't get all the people tagged before this long range hits person's freeze thaws out, that person gets to play again. Because I just think the long range, it's a really like weird way to kind of get tagged because it feels so out of your control. You already have like, more often than not, I think you don't really properly know exactly where the hunter is, and they'll probably be playing or hunting someone else. So you have to already think of like, okay, run, get away. And then suddenly there's a snowball coming from Narnia straight at your face and you're dead. It's like, I wish there was something that kind of balanced that out a little bit, because right now there is, aside from missing, of course, there is very little like balance consideration, I think, for that snowball, in my opinion at least. I will say though, despite all that, this is a pretty good game. Top 3 probably from this event. I'd give this like a 8, 7.5 or 8, one of the two, somewhere in there. I think this is good. I would say this is better than Shatterpoint. So yeah, this is a good game. And then finally, well, not finally, but the last game that they have. I don't know why this song is so loud. Thank you, Yoshi Star Galaxy. The last game they had to offer from the minigames is my favorite. This was called The Cube, which I don't know if this is a new game or something along those lines. This was like you could argue like the party game format, but with a unique spin. I think it's not really, it doesn't really feel like a party. I mean, it's kind of a party game format. It feels more like what Gauntlet felt like in the early days for PB. But I think this is an improved version of that. I think it's cool that you can opt in. There's these like buttons you can press before each mini game, which there's 8 rounds by the way within this game. Before each mini game, you can opt in for like bonus points, but you risk a life. You get 3 lives max. I think that's cool. I think it's cool to have 8 mini games within one game, back to back to back. It feels very unique compared to pretty much every other Minecraft event game. I will say though, of course, with this type of format, you aren't going to get like super unique micro games, I guess, within the minigame. But I don't think that's a problem necessarily. I think that's fine. And yeah, like I mentioned, this is my favorite game we played. I would give this like an 8.5 or a 9. I think this is like top 10% Minecraft event games, maybe. It's up there. This is one of the better ones, I think, that we see across the event scene. This is definitely my favorite. I think this is one of the better ones. And I think a lot of people in my chat and my team as well, like, shared that same, like, feeling of, like, hey, this is like a standout, like, oh, this is good. For example, if there's ever one of those, like, oh, draft, make an event where it's one minigame from every event, this is the one I would pick from this event. Which is good, because I think it's like a party-esque game format, which I don't think are like the standout games from any other Minecraft event, unfortunately, as of right now. Anyways, then, because my team ended up getting, I think, first overall, there was a little sequence segment where we went to the finale area, roughly. Oh yeah, I got like 5th or 4th or 3rd. Oh, I got 3rd, never mind. 3rd indiv, very cool. If I had a nickel for when I play my first event on a cyan team in the finale versus the purple team, where I individually get 3rd, I'd have 2. Whoa, no way. Anyways, yeah, so this is like a cool sequence. Let me just play it a little bit. As you see it here, Kevin the Cube is tweaking. Then you have, I can't see, but you have this like cool animation effect thing. It shows the scores. Then the blocks start like crumbling. I spam Fortnite Season 2 because it felt like Fortnite Season 2. But yeah, this is like, it generates the middle map, etc. Very cool, very awesome. And yeah, the finale itself, let me just scroll through it or get to it very quickly. Oh, we're not there yet. The finale itself is like a team versus team PvP game with kind of weird mechanics. If you have a sword and you have a bow and there's like a limited arrow pool. The sword does half a heart, players have 3 hearts total, but you can't like continuously hit people. There's like a cooldown on it. Then you have this bow where if you shoot someone, I assume it does 1 heart or half a heart, but it makes them like vulnerable, where if you then hit them with your sword, they like die immediately. It's cool. It's an interesting mechanic. It's a little confusing if you like don't know that that's how it works. It's a little unintuitive, but that's fine, I guess. Like, it's chill. Yeah, it was cool. My team ended up kind of winning by a clean sweep. I don't think we lost a round, which is fine. But yeah, one thing I do think is interesting to show is where this is obviously a very familiar looking, like, winning team image, which felt a little bit like, oh, you know, there's a lot of MCC inspired things. Add this on top, it's like, right, but that's fine, I guess. So yeah, I guess that was pretty much the entire event. I'll give some closing thoughts on the event. For my first time playing, this was a great first impression, and I would be interested in playing again. Also, if I had to give the finale like a number score, I'd give it probably like a 6.5 or a 7, somewhere in between there. Yeah, I will play. I would play this again if I got invited, for sure. This is cool, very cool. A good first impression, and I would vouch if people get the opportunity, get invited. I would say, play, because it's cool. So yeah, I would say overall this event is like, well, okay, from the one I played here, right? None of the games were bad. good, cool, right? I would say they had like one standout game and then some like good games. The Cube, I think, is their standout game. I think for the rest, they have like some good games. If I had to give this a score, I'd probably give it like a 7 or a 7.5 overall as an event. I think it's got a lot of potential. I think this could become like a pretty big Minecraft event if given the opportunity to get some larger creators involved. I will say this feels like it would be a more competitive leaning event as of right now, though that's may change depending on how they approach their roster, etc. Anyways, I hope y'all are caught up on my event review for this Klyx Games 5. Let me know your thoughts, and I will see you all later. Goodbye.